Welcome back to Samurai Cinema, and today we're going to take a look at a 1966 jidaigeki film starring two of Japan's most legendary actors. Based on the novel Daibatsatsu Toge, written by Kazan Nakazoto, it's a story of cruelty, violence, and bloodlust. Today's movie is Kihachi Okamoto's bloody affair called The Sword of Doom. I'm your host, GojiraFerret. Let's begin. Our film's origins begin all the way back to 1913, 1 year after the death of Japan's Emperor Meiji. Emperor Meiji would see the nation's transition from Tokugawa shogunate to the modern state. Our film's conception would begin as a newspaper serial, which would grow to over 40 volumes over 3 decades. The serial would be called Daibatsatsu Toge, after a few pre- and post-war film adaptations created by Hiroshi Inagaki in 1935 and remade by Tomo Uchida in 1957. Kihachi Okamoto would be forced to create a film adaptation. I say forced because Kihachi had fallen out of favor with Toho after unsatisfactory production of a film called The Age of Assassins. Okamoto would be accompanied by writer Shinobu Hashimoto, who co-wrote Harikiri and Hidden Fortress. Hiroshi Murai would be the cinematographer, with art direction by Takashi Matsuyama. Sound would be headed by Hasashi Shimonaga, with music being composed by Samurai Cinema regular Masaru Sato. Uncredited would be Ieji Tsuburaya, who worked on Godzilla for his special effects work. Another name you'll recognize on this channel would be Ryu Kuze, who was in charge of fight choreography. Filmed in black and white, Sword of Doom would be produced by Takarazuka Iaga Company and Toho, and released to Japan theaters on February 25th, 1966. A United States release would come the 1st of July of the same year. Sadly, the film would receive a lukewarm reception and received no nominations nor awards. So, what is up with the interesting case of the Sword of Doom? Maybe we can figure it out somewhere in the plot. Let's go. In the waning years of the Tokugawa shogunate, an old man and his granddaughter, Omatsu, are traveling to Edo. While Omatsu is away fetching water, the old man crosses paths with the swordsman wearing a large straw hat known as a ronengasa. The unknown swordsman slashes the old man in cold blood and leaves. Omatsu later finds her grandfather's body lying dead by a shrine. The murderous swordsman is revealed to be the young lord Ryunosuke, a skilled and vicious samurai who was expelled from the Kogen Itoryu school of fencing. His sword form described as unorthodox and cruel. Ryunosuke is set to face a former colleague and successor to the Kogen school, Bunojo Utsuki, in a match. Ryunosuke is urged by his father and even Bunojo's wife, Hama, to throw the match so that the Kogen school wouldn't be disgraced and die. Ryunosuke, reluctant at first, agrees to throw his match on the terms that Hama gives up her chastity to him. She agrees to the terms, and the next day, Ryunosuke faces Bunojo, but not before Hama is served divorce papers after her infidelity is discovered by her husband. The two swordsmen square off, and as the two size each other up slowly, Bunojo lunges at Ryunosuke as the judge calls a draw. Bunojo's attack is parried, and he receives a fatal headshot with the bokken of his opponent. While Ryunosuke leaves, he is stopped by Hama, who begs for him to take her with him wherever he goes. An ambush is sprung shortly afterwards by the Kogen school students who seek to avenge the death of Bunojo. The large group of swordsmen are no match for Ryunosuke's skill set, and he efficiently dispatches his attackers without hesitation. 2 years pass as we see that Ryunosuke, now going by the alias Ryutaro Yoshida, is working as a sword for hire by the Shinzen group, or Shinzengumi. The group was a real group of ronin and swordsmen who were loyal to the shogunate, and under the command of the Bakufu, would engage in conflicts to protect the Tokugawa shogunate's power over Japan. The Shinzengumi would disband in just 6 years in 1869 after the Battle of Nakadai. Ryunosuke is hired to do an assassination, and we discover that he and Hama now live together with an infant child. Hama is less than silent about her disdain with her new life. Later that day, Ryunosuke enters the Shimada Sword School and requests a match with the instructor Torisuke Surmada. The instructor reminds the swordsman that he must face his best pupil before he can be considered for a match. After besting Shimada's best student, Ryunosuke is denied his match as Shimada recognizes the strange and peculiar sword style of the challenger. Disappointed, Ryunosuke leaves and prepares for the assassination he's been hired to do. The student who was bested by Ryunosuke passes by a house, and we see that the young girl Omatsu now is a servant and is set to serve Lord Kamiyo. After being visited by her uncle, she admits it's not entirely what she desires in life. Meanwhile, Ryunosuke and another member of the Shinzen group use the rainy night to spring an ambush, and both of their targets are successfully assassinated swiftly. Ryunosuke now visibly being drugged slowly into bloodlust and madness with every kill. Later, the Shinzen group approaches Lord Kamiyo to request his support, but the Lord admits his dislike and apathy for the shogunate. Angered, the group leaves. While leaving the Lord's court, Ryunosuke runs into an old associate from 2 years ago. The associate reveals that after the death of Bunojo, Ryunosuke's father sent his rival's brother, Hiyoma, to Shimada's sword school to become skilled enough to kill Ryunosuke. The realization that the young student he bested before was Bunojo's brother, Ryunosuke issues a challenge and has his true identity revealed to his opponents. Hiyoma, now aware of his brother's killer, trains non-stop to avenge his brother's death. During a snowy night, the Shinzen group accidentally ambush the palanquin of Shimada, the stubborn swordsman, all paying for their mistake in their blood. Stunned by the sight of Shimada's amazing swordsmanship, Ryunosuke is driven deeper into the madness. His bloodlust becoming so strong, he slays Hama and abandons their infant son. Omatsu, her uncle, and Hiyoma are gathered together in Kyoto while Ryunosuke attends a banquet with the Shinzen group leaders. Hiyoma plans to duel Ryunosuke and hopefully defeat the mad swordsman. During the banquet, a Shinzen group leader pulls Ryunosuke aside and in secrecy plots to kill another group leader. Their plot is overheard by Omatsu, and her life is thrown into the hands of Ryunosuke. While Omatsu awaits her death, she begins to tell ghost stories. This triggers Ryunosuke, who begins to hallucinate the spirits of all the people he has slain. The swordsman, now driven fully insane, begins slashing at shadows and eventually turns on the members of the Shinzen group. After a long and bloody altercation that leaves Ryunosuke wounded and mad, the movie abruptly ends without warning. Hiroshi Murai would use interesting angles and lighting to spruce up shots, such as the one where Hiyoma is training. His use of shadows and lighting giving the movie a dark and ominous feeling throughout. Unlike large productions that use large set pieces, Murai didn't film large landscapes. Instead, his angles are tight and claustrophobic, adding to the impact of Ryunosuke's descent into bloodthirsty insanity. This film's main theme is the slow and agonizing downward spiral into madness, and who else better than Tatsuya Nakadai to portray such a feat? He is easily the best actor in the group, but that's not to take away from his co-stars. The acting and line delivery are competent, albeit long-winded at times, but as stated prior, Nakadai's performance is what stands out in this film. Action is this film's saving grace, if not for the acting. It's fluid, and with the well-placed shots by the cinematographer, you don't miss a beat. Sword slashes are quick and surgical. I was especially pleased that Ryunosuke was indeed given an unorthodox style. So many times is a character's skill set described differently than what's portrayed by the action itself. Nakadai and Mifune are always competent with swordplay, and thanks to the choreographer Ryukuze, it displays how skilled a character is in swordsmanship. Sadly, the writing is where this film falls short. It's long-winded and drags on and on. It's full of build-up with little to no payoff, especially the ending. We are given nearly 45 minutes of build-up to Ryunosuke and Hiyoma's final showdown, only for the film to end abruptly while the villain slaughters his fellow Ronin. Why were we given this ending? What happened? Well, Sword of Doom was slated to be a trilogy that would continue after the slaughter of the Shinzen group. The trilogy would follow Ryunosuke throughout his journey dealing with bloodlust and guilt. Interestingly enough, the film was seen as too violent for modern audiences, and the subsequent sequels were cancelled, leaving the ending ambiguous. Personally, despite it following a novel, I would have strayed a bit from the source material. First, I'd remove the inclusion of Omatsu's secondary plot and even tone down Shimada's role. Instead, the film would focus solely on Ryunosuke and his dark ego being quenched by the blood of his opponents. Knowing Nakadai's ability to portray the slow burn of being driven mad with Ron, this easily would be done. Originally, Ryunosuke's downward spiral was seen only at the end of a killing, his smile becoming more maniacal with every murder. I would have loved to see more of his descent, allowing us to watch it slowly consume him. Masaru Sato does it again. His music fills the scenes where Ryunosuke is visibly being eaten by his lust of death. But what makes the score more impactful is the dead silence in between scores. The absence of sound and music gives the film scenes darker and more ominous tones, allowing us to take in the intensity without intense music backing it up. What do I make of Sword of Doom? Despite its flaws, it's still an entertaining film with its acting and precise swordplay. Its writing is a bit slow, and many aspects could be removed without changing the overall narrative. What major shortcomings this film has aren't the fault of the filmmakers, but it's the product of an outside factor. This film was imposed upon Okamoto, and its sequels were snuffed out before the film began rolling. With these aspects taken into consideration, the film alone stands well on its own merits. Would I recommend this film? Yes, but only for the hardcore fans, and only once really. It's not a bad film, but without context, the casual viewer may be left unfulfilled with the film's ending and payoff. And that's that. I hope you enjoyed this review of The Sword of Doom. What did you think of the film? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe to stay up to date with new content. Also, this review is Samurai Cinema's 1-year anniversary. That's right, it's been a whole year since I uploaded my first review. Thank you everyone who's been a part of Samurai Cinema for this long, and I hope to keep on making more content for years to come. I'm GojiraFerret. Thank you for watching.